Hi, my name's Sean. Welcome to my channel In the Comments. This is my first YouTube video, so I'm a little nervous, I'm a little uncomfortable, I feel a little awkward. I have a lot of notes, so I may be looking over to the side, but I will try to keep it to a minimum. The first video that I'm posting is about a pretty heavy topic. It is concerning disordered eating and monetization, and I will be talking about Eugenia Cooney, Amberlynn, Reid, and Nikacado, Avocado. Now, let me start out by saying that I don't personally watch any of these channels, not on their channels. I do watch commentary channels and other channels that talk about these people, and I have, like Amberlynn, Reid, and Eugenia Cooney for years. I did watch Nikacado, Avocado in his past life when he was a vegan YouTuber. I do kind of follow some vegan channels, even though I'm not a vegan. And his would come up and I would click on it every once in a while. I didn't skip it because I couldn't stand to watch it like I did some other vegan YouTubers, like, I don't know, Freely the Banana Girl and Fully Raw Christina. They were just so misguided in so many other ways that I couldn't stand to watch them. But I did every once in a while watch Nikacado. I have not in years. And Eugenia Cooney, I did watch maybe 4 or 5 of her videos for a brief moment. It didn't last very long, and we'll definitely get into why. But I do not give these channels clicks. I do not give them views for the very reason I'm going to discuss in this video. I do have to say that in my research and thinking about how to discuss this, talking about Eugenia Cooney is so much more difficult than Amberlynn, Reid, and Nikacado, and it took me a long time trying to figure out why that was. And I really think it comes down to nothing more than straight optics. We in this country and in the world today have definitely developed this aura of health at every size, you know, these mantras of health at every size, and that fat shaming is a sin. So we tend to just kind of be real meh about morbid obesity, whereas watching someone literally starve themselves to death still sparks some kind of visceral, raw gut reaction, and it does a disservice to both health conditions. I mean, watching somebody starve themselves to death, yes, it's disturbing and it's hard and it's all of that, but it's no less unhealthy than watching someone eat themselves to death. Both of them are immense displays of self-harm and very dangerous, and one no more so than the other. And I think it's unfortunate that when I show people, friends or family, pictures of Amberlynn, Reid, or Nikacado, Avocado, they're like, oh yeah, you know, they're big. And then I show them a picture of Eugenia Cooney and the reaction is, oh my God. It's unfortunate. It isn't fair to the seriousness of either condition. So let's talk about all of them, because I don't think any one of these three, or any of the channels just like them, should be allowed to make 1 red cent off their own self-destruction, and that is exactly the topic of this video today. So Amberlynn Reid, she's got about 182,000 subscribers. She started it on YouTube at 22 years old. Her first video was 7 years ago, and she was 368 pounds at the time. She started her channel under the guise of being a weight loss channel. She said that, you know, she's seen other channels do this. They were very inspirational, and she wanted to be an inspiration as well. But if you look at her old views and her old content, it became clear relatively quickly that her most viewed content was of her eating and of her putting her overweight body on display. Fast forward to 2019, she weighed 586 pounds, almost 600 pounds, and she became a mostly mukbang, drama, clickbait kind of channel. She has trolled with weight loss program after weight loss program, whether it was Activia or Noom or Jenny Craig or Weight Watchers, and she was always so very excited every time she started one of these programs, but very quickly would find flaws with each one of them, sometimes in the very first day, always within the first few days to a week, and she would give up on them. She even had a nutritionist, a doctor guiding her at one point, and she decided that doctor didn't know what he talked about and that 9 to 1100 calories wasn't enough to sustain herself on each day, and so she was going to give up on that as well. She refuses to seek therapy to work on the cause of the root cause of what causes her to continue to binge, even up to and including when she finally went to go seek out weight loss surgery, and she had to take a very long 300 question questionnaire, and in her own words, failed it. And they told her that she was not eligible for weight loss surgery until she sought therapy to the extent that she had her binging under control, if not completely controlled. And rather than take it upon herself and for this to motivate her and give her the incentive to go seek out a therapist to help her with the underlying issues that cause her to continue to binge the way she does, she simply gave up. She has a ton of health issues. She has recurring bladder infections. She has recurring cellulitis. And she recently got diagnosed with uterine cancer in a highly emotional video that was really difficult to watch, even through commentary channels. She admitted that she knows that her obesity and her lifestyle and her reluctance to go see a doctor is the reason her cancer got to the point that it caused her to have a hysterectomy. And she even admitted in that video where she announced she had uterine cancer that she was terrified to go under the knife at all, because she's acutely aware that at her present weight of between 550 and 600 pounds, it's an enormous risk for her to be put under and go under the knife. It was really hard to watch that video, but this recent health scare still has not prompted her to get on a sustainable diet, to trim back her calories, to seek therapy, to help her understand the reason she binges and to get her binging under control. It is 6 months later and she is living the same life she always lived. She was doing, I think, Jenny Craig for a minute. A day and a half it lasted before she binged on Panera. And then since then, there's been very little talk about following that program. And she signed up for 2 years for that. And she followed it for a day and a half, 2 days max. And then totally just, it went right out the window. So even with this legitimate life-threatening scare, she has still not found the motivation to seek the help she needs. Nikacado, Avocado, has 3 million subs. He has the most subscribers across his many channels. He's got at least 3 channels that I'm aware of. There may be more. There's Nikacado Avocado and more Nikacado Avocado, and then Nikacado 2 and 3. I don't even know. He's got at least 3 channels that I'm aware of. He started out a vegan channel. He was a healthy weight. He looked healthy. He looked like an entirely different person. He seemed to be a healthy weight. He seemed fit. He seemed active. He started in 2014 at 22 years old. However, all of those videos are gone. His most current video on his channel, his main channel, right now is from 2016, and it is talking about how he's not sure he wants to even be a vegan anymore. If you go back to the earliest days, he does have vegan content, and he was doing mukbangs in 2016. However, it was with vegan food. It was not the kind of food that he does now. It didn't appear to be every single day. It was still a large amount of food, but it didn't appear to be every day, and it was all vegan, so it was a little healthier than what happened when he finally gave up being vegan entirely. Once he decided that he didn't want to be a vegan any longer at all, he immediately went to daily mukbangs of just garbage food. Garbage food. I mean, he's eating these enormous trays full of Burger King and McDonald's and Taco Bell and Chipotle and just big gobs of cheese that he's scooping up with whatever he can get his hands on. Just had water ramen, all of that. All of it. It was all, it's all completely unhealthy. It's all completely trash food. His titles became super clickbaity and super drama. I mean, all about his relationship with Orlin, and, you know, he cheated on me and he left me and it's all your fault and I'm quitting YouTube and we lost our house. And I mean, just all this crazy drama. He did an interview with Trisha Paytas in 2016 after he left veganism behind entirely and began these really crazy mukbang, dramatic, clickbaity title. And he tells Trisha, they like when I'm upset. They like when I'm crying. They like when I'm hyper, he said, adding that he intentionally makes his videos clickbaity. He also admitted several years later that he shit his pants on Trisha's couch during that interview. 3 years later, he is now at 300 pounds. He's getting up to 1 million views per video, some of them 4 to 5 million views. He is enormously popular, and his likes to dislikes are still in his favor. His comments are mostly positive. He has health issues as well. Of course he does. He has gained an entire extra person over the course of the past 3.5 years. He says that his anxiety, his OCD, his mental health issues are more out of control than they have ever been. He often talks about loss of his bowels, whether he's doing an active mukbang and he's sitting there and he's eating and he's like, oh, I'm going to fart. And then he announces that he filled his pants, or he tells a story about how he was sleeping and lost control of his bowels during his sleep. This is new. This is not an issue he had when he was a vegan. This is not an issue he had in the beginning of him starting these truly unhealthy, overindulgent junk food garbage mukbangs. They are new. And people are eating it up. They love it. And then we come to Eugenia. Eugenia has 2 million subs. She started in 2011 at 7 years old, but the oldest video on her channel today is only 7 years old. She's clearly too thin in these first videos. Her videos then and now revolve around cosplay, outfit try-ons, clothes hauls, makeup, I mean, all that kind of stuff. She over the years lost more and more weight and became more and more unhealthy until 3 of her friends staged an intervention. Jacqueline Glenn and her then boyfriend, now husband, and another friend, I don't know, I'm not sure what her name is, all staged an intervention. They took Eugenia, they invited her out. I believe they told her they were going to go do one of those escape rooms. They brought her to someone's apartment. I'm assuming it was either Jacqueline Glenn's or the other girl who was involved in this, in the intervention. And they had called ahead of time the county health department and explained what was going on and that they wanted to do an intervention and to get Eugenia some help. She wouldn't admit she had a problem and she was very unhealthy. So they called the county health department. The county health department said, you let us know when and where, and we'll send 3 counselors at that date and time. So they get Eugenia over to the apartment. They're all sitting around and they get a knock on the door. And it's these 3 counselors. The counselors come in and Jacqueline and her then boyfriend, now husband, and the other friend all leave. They have not met these counselors ahead of time. There was no talking. There was no storytelling before this meeting occurred. The 3 counselors came in and sat down with Eugenia and asked her a series of questions. And at the end of the interview, they decided that Eugenia was a danger to herself and not capable of making sound decisions when it came to her own health. So they involuntarily committed her under a 5150 into either a psych ward or a eating disorder clinic. I'm not sure which one. It's never been super clear. To hear Eugenia talk, it sounds like it may have been a psych ward, a mental health facility, but I'm not sure, to be honest. She was there. They took her that day. She was gone. She disappeared from the internet for a period of 4 or 5 months. And when she came back, she had gained weight. She looked pretty healthy. Shane Dawson, who is a story in and of himself, like a whole other series of issues with that human being. However, Shane Dawson, in Shane Dawson's fashion, immediately decided to capitalize on Eugenia's story and did his documentary on her, where he did the return of Eugenia Cooney. And she looked good. Her color was better. Her face was fuller. She looked good. And at that point, I began watching Eugenia. I actually tuned in and I gave her some clicks. I watched 4, maybe 5 videos before I realized what was actually going on. And I had an inkling, even in Shane's documentary, she never once, not once to this day since she left that clinic, has admitted that she has an eating disorder, that she has a problem even. She has said things like, maybe things got a little out of hand, maybe I needed a little bit of help, but she has never, not once, admitted she has a problem and needs help with it. And once I realized that was the narrative that she was going with, I quickly became aware of the fact that she's just going to slip right back into where she was. And because of this, I stopped watching. I knew what was going to happen. I saw it coming. And sure enough, over the course of the past year, she has lost all of the progress she made. She is damn near, if not as dangerously thin as she was before Jacqueline staged the intervention in the first place. And to this day, she doesn't admit she has a problem. In fact, if she's asked directly, she says she's fine. She only posts on YouTube 2 to 4 times a month, but she's doing Twitch streams nearly daily, 6, 7, 8 hour long Twitch streams on a nearly daily basis, where she doesn't stop to eat, she doesn't stop to drink, she doesn't take a bathroom break, she just sits, and sometimes she plays games and sometimes she talks to her chats. And it frequently comes up about her weight in those chats, unless the moderators are heading them all off and deleting them all before she sees them, but people will still pay for super chats or whatever, and she's making money that way, and it will still sometimes come through that people are concerned about her weight, and she will straight deny that there is an issue. All of these channels are monetized. Eugenia gets a ton of interaction. Yes, it's negative interaction by and large. I mean, she is getting 12,000 dislikes to 800 likes on her current videos. She's getting, tens of thousands of comments, most of them negative, but it does. And the same thing with ALR, Amberlynn Reid, the same thing with her. Most of her interaction is negative, but it doesn't matter. The YouTube algorithm does not care what form of interaction the interaction is. As long as people are engaged, they are going to push that content into people's recommended. They are going to push Amberlynn Reid and Eugenia Cooney out to a bigger audience because they've got 12,000 comments. YouTube, the algorithm's not reading whether the comments are "you need help" or whether "we love you, you're wonderful." It doesn't care. The interaction alone pushes them in the algorithm and pushes their channel out to a larger audience. Now, for whatever reason, Nikacado Avocado, his interaction is primarily positive. He's getting, a lot of views, and people are loving it. This sideshow circus freak, which is what he's turned his channel into being, and people are eating it up, even though he's killing himself. Even though he is doing physical harm to his body, obvious physical harm. You see it happening in his videos when he talks about his indigestion and his loss of bowels and his weight gain. I mean, he's gained an entire other person over the course of the last 3 years. It's insane. And people love it. YouTube's terms of service are clear. They say for self-suicide and self-injury, at YouTube, we take health and well-being of all of our creators and viewers seriously. Awareness and understanding of mental health are important, and we support creators sharing their stories, such as posting content discussing their experiences with depression, self-harm, or other mental illness. We do not, however, allow content on YouTube that promotes suicide or self-harm or is intended to shock or disgust users. What to do if you find this content? If you come across this content in which someone expresses suicidal thoughts or is engaging in self-harm, please contact local emergency services immediately for help and flag the video to bring it to our immediate attention. YouTube users should not be afraid to speak openly about the topics of mental health or self-harm. However, please don't post content on YouTube if it fits any of the descriptions noted below, promoting or glorifying suicide, providing instructions on how to self-harm or die by suicide, graphic images of self-harm posted to shock or disgust users. This community guidelines policy applies to videos, video descriptions, comments, live streams, and any other YouTube product or feature. Please note that this is not a complete list. Twitches, because Eugenia, I believe, makes most of her money off Twitch these days. Twitch's terms of service are clear as well. Self-destructive behavior. Any activity that may endanger your life or lead to your physical harm is prohibited. This includes, but is not limited to, suicide threats, intentional physical trauma, illegal use of drugs, illegal or dangerous consumption of alcohol, and dangerous or distracted driving. We do not make exceptions for self-destructive behavior performed as a stunt or gag made in jest, meant to entertain, when the behavior could reasonably be expected to cause physical injury. Nowhere in here, I understand, does it say that starving yourself or eating yourself to death on YouTube is acceptable behavior, nor does it say it's prohibited behavior, but it is understood that if it is clearly a form of self-harm, it is prohibited by their terms of service. And I do not understand what else you could call someone who is gorging themselves to the point of making themselves sick or starving themselves and not admitting there's a problem. I don't know what else you could classify that as. I would like to know why these channels have been allowed to stay monetized. Now, I'm not calling to deplatform anyone here. I know there's some petitions out there right now that are starting to deplatform Eugenia specifically. I don't necessarily know if that's the answer. I've heard enough things about her family where I'm not sure that taking away this one constant, this one thing that she has, her routine, is going to be the best thing for her. However, I do also think that maybe, perhaps, call me crazy, if she was demonetized and she stopped being the primary source of income for her family, she stopped being this pony show that made her family money, maybe with that loss of income, they would be a little more invested in her health than in her views. I don't know, maybe not. But perhaps if she had the support of her family behind her, and I've heard things where I'm not sure that that's true. I'm not sure her family supports her getting well. Perhaps if she wasn't this little pony show and was making money off her own self-destruction, maybe they'd be a little more invested in her being well. I don't know. Same thing with Amberlynn Reid. ALR is grossing somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 a month, putting her self-destruction on display. It makes no sense to me. It makes no sense. I mean, this girl has been recording poor quality videos off of her phone. Now, don't get me wrong. This video is on my phone, but it's my first video. I've never done this before. I don't have professional equipment, nor can I afford to buy professional equipment at this time. ALR is making between $5,000 and $10,000 a month on her AdSense revenue. She can afford and has bought decent cameras, and she still prefers to record on her cell phone, edit, usually on her cell phone, and throw these half-assed freaking videos up on her channel. And she's making money at it when they primarily consist of her eating in excess, talking about her binging, and eating in excess, watching her gain 200 pounds when she was already almost 400 pounds when she started. Watching her gain an additional 200 pounds. The woman is going to become bedridden soon, and YouTube just lets her keep raking it in. Lets her keep making all this money on her self-destruction because she learned early on that the videos that show her eating and displaying her body, and the bigger it got, the more views she got, the more money she made. That was where her moneymaker was. She's admitted it herself on her channel. And this, if this is not a direct violation of YouTube's terms of service, I don't know what is. It is clear-cut self-harm. And then you got Nikacado, who I will never understand. This guy's got to be making millions of dollars through his own self-destruction. Why isn't YouTube enforcing their own terms of service? The part of this that enrages me the most is that other channels who talk about Eugenia Cooney, other channels, commentary channels, people who are not hating on her, they are truly concerned for her. I have watched other channels burst into tears because they're so either worried about her or triggered by her because they've gone through their own struggles with disordered eating. But they can't even say the name of the disease she has, of the illness she has, because they will be demonetized if they do. They cannot say the A word. In fact, most of them won't even say eating disorder. They will say ED because YouTube doesn't like that word. It's triggering, so they demonetize people. But they will let this young woman sit on her channel, destroying, starving herself to death, all the while looking at her young audience, by the way, who go out and use her for thinspo, and she is goals. That's what they want to look like. And she will sit and she will look at her primarily young audience and tell them she's fine. She doesn't have a problem and she's perfectly healthy. And she's still raking in AdSense money. She will look at 13-year-olds, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds, her primary demographic, and tell them that she is healthy. Her doctors say she's healthy. But people who comment on her in other channels can't name the disease she has because they'll be demonetized. And yet she's making money. Same thing with Nick. Nikacado is also, his target demographic is young, and they're watching him sit and they're watching him eat this disgusting amount of food, and they're loving it. I do not understand why YouTube refuses to enforce their own terms of service on these channels. Eugenia Cooney, Amberlynn, Reid, Nikacado, Avocado, Foodie Beauty. I mean, there's a bunch of them out there. Why will they refuse to enforce their own terms of service? But commentator channels can't call a spade a spade. They can't name the illness without being demonetized. But these people can put it on full display and make hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars a year. YouTube, follow your own terms of service and demonetize these channels. At the very least, age restrict them, because Eugenia especially is pointing a whole lot of very young girls on a very wrong track. And I want nothing more than to see Eugenia be well, but the damage she's doing to others is a bigger concern to me. It is up to her to make herself be well, inspiring others to be sick too. And she has never directly said she supports this, but she has never directly said she doesn't either. She has never even admitted she has a problem. She tells everyone she's fine. YouTube, enforce your own terms of service. Demonetize these channels. You are doing a disservice to the children who watch these videos. Why isn't YouTube upholding their own terms of service? You let me know in the comments below.